Hi class, so this is the second part of my theme mini lesson, and as we continue on with this week, we are still working with theme, and I'm just going to quickly go over what theme is. So let's remember that theme is a message, lesson, or moral the author wants you to learn. And when I talked to you a few days ago, I asked you to keep this question in mind whenever you're reading your passage and whenever you're doing your do now. So remember to ask yourself, what idea stayed with me and how did the character grow or change? So for today's lesson, I am going to go over one of our do nows, and I want us to work on this one called the recital. So I am going to be reading it with you, and then I have a graphic organizer that I'm going to be filling out, and I want you to do something similar whenever you're doing your do nows. I want you to have the big idea. You are going to provide me 3 pieces of evidence, and then in the end you're going to tell me what message did you take from the story. Okay, so the text that we're going to be reading today is called the recital. We are going to read it, and we are going to pull that evidence from this text and fill out our graphic organizer. In the end, we are going to come up with our theme. What was the message of the story? Okay, so I am going to begin by reading it, and then I'll slowly break it down, and we're going to be pulling that information together. Okay, this is what your do nows are going to look like. So make sure that you're watching this video so that you know exactly what is expected and how you need to organize the information in order to be able to make your theme, to figure out what is the theme. Okay? All right, the recital. Kara chose a difficult piece to play for the piano recital. Her teacher advised her to select an easier one, but Kara knew she could do it. Kara practiced every day after school. When her friends called to see if she could play, Kara told them that she couldn't and continued to practice. Even with all that practice, a week before the recital, Kara still could not play the piece without making mistakes. Kara thought about giving up and switching to an easier piece, but instead, she decided to double her practice time. The night of the recital arrived. Kara was the last student to play. As she walked into the stage to take her place at the piano, she remembered the long hours she had spent practicing. Kara began to play. Her hands danced across the keyboard. She knew the piece so well. When the final note faded, the room erupted in applause. She had played the piece perfectly. Okay, so I read it once. You can read it as many times as you need. Now that I read it, I am going to complete my graphic organizer to be able to come up with what is my theme. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at my graphic organizer, and remember, I have my big idea. I am going to be filling in 3 pieces of evidence that show me, 3 pieces of evidence that demonstrate the big idea of this story, of this text, what the character does or say to demonstrate it. All right, so as I'm filling in my graphic organizer, I'm going to go back to my text to be able to get that information from. All right, so I'm thinking to myself, what does Kara do to show the big idea, to show what is the message of the story? So I know that my big idea is that she's trying to practice. She's picked a very difficult piece to play for the recital, and she has to practice. She has to practice a lot in order to be able to play it. So the big idea is that I'm going to write here. She has difficult piece to play, has to practice a lot. Okay, so now what is my evidence? Now, if I go back to the passage, it tells me that she practiced every day after school. So that is my first piece of evidence. I'm going to put it right here in this box. Practiced every day after school. All right. What is my second piece of evidence? So I go back to my text. I keep reading. Her friends called to see if she would play. She told them she couldn't and continued to practice. So she's refusing to go out to play with her friends because she wants to practice instead. So I'm going to put that down in my second box. Refuse to play with friends, rather practice. Okay. And then my last piece of evidence. So I'm going to keep going back to my passage, to my text. And it says that she kept practicing. A week before the play, she still did not know. A week before the recital, she still couldn't play the piece. And she thought about giving up, but she instead decided to double her practice. So that's another action that she did. That's another piece of evidence. So I'm going to put it right here in my last box. Double her practice. Time. So I found my 3 pieces of evidence. Now I need to come up with the message you take from the story. So I know that she practiced every day. She refused to play with her friends. She doubled her practice time. In the end, was she successful? And if I'm reading, I go back to my text and I read it. She knew the piece so well, the notes faded and the room erupted in applause. She had played the piece perfectly. So in the end, she was successful. Now I'm gonna take a few minutes and really think, what is the message from the story? What is the theme? She practiced. She refused to play with friends. She even doubled her time. So she was a very persistent person. She didn't give up. Even though it was a really hard piece to play, she didn't let that stop her. So what I can say that the message from the story is that her persistence paid off. Or you might say, didn't give up and was successful in the end. So your message might sound a little bit different. It could be persistence paid off, or she didn't give up and was successful in the end, or didn't let something difficult stop her. But they all kind of have something, they're all similar. It's in the end, she was successful. In the end, she was able to play the piece, all because she practiced every day. She went, instead of playing with friends, she decided to practice. She even doubled her practice time. Okay? All right, guys. So I am going to be posting these do nows in teams. And just like I did this, I want you to do it as well. Just get a piece of paper, draw out your big idea, what is your evidence, and then in the end, in the bottom, put your message. Make sure that you tell me as your answer whenever I post them for do nows, what is the message that you took from the story. Tell me what it is. Okay? All right, so I hope that you are able to see this video and you already kind of have an idea about what is expected whenever I post these do nows. Okay? All right, so if you have any questions or if you're having trouble seeing those do nows, I know some of you were telling me that you couldn't see them or it wasn't letting you post, please message me on Dojo or send me a message through Teams. That way I can look into it. Okay? All right, so this is the lesson for today. Yes, okay. Okay, so yes, this is the lesson for today. And make sure you see my video. I'm going to be posting the link on Teams and Dojo. Okay? Thank you guys. Bye.